Good day, I am Mika Monteza and I'm going to present Renascent of Engineering. First, when did Renaissance engineering occur? It occurred at late 1400s up to 1800s. What is Renaissance? Renaissance is a French word of rebirth. It is also said to be the start of a modern age. Renaissance, it is an artistic and intellectual renewal movement which began about late 1300s in the southern parts of the Europe. Its main idea is to put aside many of the enlightened medieval practices to seek a revival rebirth of the more uplifting facets of classic culture of the ancient world, especially that of Greece. The Renaissance engineering proved to be consequent of three reasons. The first one, crafting proficiency. The onset of the Renaissance coincided with the attainment of an accomplished and widespread crafting proficiency. The second one, private wealth. Accumulation of private wealth provided capital for architecture, commercial ventures, and patronage of the arts. The third one, interest in novelty. Innovative thought stimulated a growing interest in novelty and varied choices of ingenious devices. These are the source and links used. Expansive engineering. Expansive engineering started in 1800 through 1940s. It also called as the exponential growth of engineering era. There are four developments during this area. The first one is transportation. The second one is urbanization. And the third one is science and medicine. And lastly, the fourth one is the social action. The first one, transportation. Steam railroads. What is steam railroads? A steam locomotive is a type of railway locomotive that produces its pulling power through a steam engine. These locomotives are fueled by burning combustible material, usually coal, wood, or oil, to produce steam in a boiler. Richard Trevithick built the first locomotive in 1802. Steam locomotives were first developed in the United Kingdom during the early 19th century and used for railway transport until the middle of the 20th century. In 1830, George Stephenson opened the first public intercity railway, the Liverpool and Manchester Railway. The second one, steamships. What are steamships? A steamship, often referred as a steamer, is a type of steam-powered vessel, typically ocean-faring and seaworthy, that is propelled by one or more steam engines that typically moves propellers or paddle wheels. The first successful steam-powered vessel were built for use on canals and rivers in the early 1800s. On early steamships, the steam engine turned paddle wheels that moved the ship along. But by the 1850s, most ships were using propellers instead. The second one is urbanization. A profound urbanization process emerged in the mid-1800s, creating unprecedented demands and opportunity for city housing, urban transportation, and sanitary installations. Electric lighting. Thomas Edison patented the incandescent light bulb in 1879. This development quickly became common in homes as well as factories, transforming how even lower and middle-class Americans lived. Although slow arrived to rural areas of the country, electric power became readily available in cities when the commercial power plants began to open in 1882. Gradually, cities began to illuminate the streets with electric lamps to allow the city to remain alight throughout the night. No longer did the pace of life and economic activity slow substantial at sunset the way it had in smaller towns. The cities following the factories that drew people there stayed open all the time. Communication improvements. The telephone, patented in 1876, greatly transformed communication both regionally and nationally. The telephone rapidly supplanted the telegraph as preferred form of communication. By 1900, over 1.5 million telephones were used in the nation, whether as private lines in the home of some middle and upper class Americans or jointly used party lines in many rural areas, by allowing instant communication over larger distance at any given amount of time. Growing telephone networks made urban sprawl possible. Intracity transportation. As cities grew and sprawled outward, a major challenge was efficient travel within the city, from home to factories or shops and then back again. Most transportation infrastructure was used to connect cities to each other, typically by rail or canal. Prior to 1880s, the most common form of transportation within the cities was the omnibus. This was a large horse-drawn carriage often placed on iron or steel tracks to provide a smoother ride. While omnibus worked adequately in smaller, less congested cities, they were not equipped to handle the large crowds that developed at the close of the centuries. The horse had to stop and rest, and horse manure became an ongoing problem. In 1887, Frank Sprague invented the electric trolley, which worked along the same concept as the omnibus, with a large wagon on tracks, but was powered by the electricity rather than the horse. The electric trolley could run throughout the day or night, like the factories and the workers who fueled them. But it also modernized less important industrial centers, such as the southern city of Richmond, Virginia. As early 1873, San Francisco engineers adopted pulley technology from the mining industry to introduce cable cars and turn the city's ships hills into elegant middle-class communities. However, as crowds continued to grow in the large cities such as Chicago and New York, trolleys were unable to move efficiently through the crowd of pedestrians. To avoid this challenge, city planners elevated the trolley lines above the streets, creating elevated trains or L trains as early as 1868 in New York City and quickly spreading to Boston in 1887 and Chicago in 1892. Finally, as skyscraper began to dominate the air, transportation evolved one step further to move underground as subways. Boston's subway system began operating in 1897 and was quickly followed by the New York and other cities. The rise of skyscrapers. The last limitation that large cities had to overcome was the ever-increasing need for space. Eastern cities, unlike their Midwestern counterparts, could not continue to grow outward, as the land surrounding them was already settled. Geographic limitations such as river or the coast also hampered sprawl, and in all the cities, citizens needed to be close enough to urban centers to conveniently access work, shops, and other core institutions of urban life. That's why they build skyscrapers in order to have the one core institution in one building and in order to save up space. Some countries even became 50% urbanized. The next one, science and medicine. By the end of the 1800s, molecular and atomic structure with a faint hint of nuclear theory became recognized, and the far-reaching bacterial basis of illness and epidemics became convincingly established. New worlds were opening for the deeply inquisitive minds of the day. And lastly, the fourth one is the social action. An increasing interest in coordinated public action also characterized the 1800s. Some absolute dynasties were toppled, representative government emerged, labor unions were organized, Marxism appeared, new religion denominations arose, woman suffrage had these beginnings, and the moment to abolish slavery gained strength. Individuals became empowered in this development. The next one is social action. An increasing interest in coordinated public action also characterized the 1800s. Some absolute dynasties were toppled, representative governments emerged, labor unions were organized, Marxism appeared, new religious denominations arose, woman suffrage had these beginnings, and the movement to abolish slavery gained strength. Individuals become empowered. This happens on the development of social action. Here are the source and links used at this topic. Thank you for listening and thank you for understanding. Again, I am Mika Monteza from Civil Engineering, major in Structural Engineer. Thank you.